The hallway clock reads 11,040 p.m. The building is quiet, wrapped in the typical silence of a sleeping city, but Mrs. Gable stands frozen by her door. She presses her ear against the cold wood, her hands trembling as she adjusts her glasses. She hears it again, leaking from apartment 4B across the hall. It is not the sound of a television or a party. It is a sharp, piercing scream that makes her blood run cold. "No! Please, stop!" The voice sounds like a terrified child, high-pitched and distorted by sobbing. Mrs. Hefty. Gable recoils, covering her mouth with her hand. She has lived here for 30 years and has never heard such horror. She quickly locks every bolt on her door, her heart beating louder than the clock. She runs to the bathroom, the only room without windows, and pulls out her phone. The call comes in at 11,042 p.m. Sarah, a dispatcher with tired eyes, adjusts her headset and takes a deep breath. 911. What is your emergency? On the other end, she hears heavy, ragged breathing. The woman speaks in a whisper so quiet that Sarah has to turn up the volume. "You have to send someone," the voice begs. "He is doing it again. The child has been screaming for an hour." Sarah focuses instantly, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Ma'am, are you safe?" she asks, while the system traces the call to a prestigious Manhattan address. Suddenly, a scream cuts through the background noise on the phone line. It sounds inhumanly loud and full of pain. "Daddy, no!" The sound is unmistakable. Mrs. Gable grips the phone tighter, sitting on the fluffy rug in her marble bathroom. She has turned on the tap to create background noise, but the screams from next door penetrate even the sound of running water. Every word echoes in her head. She imagines terrible things happening just a few feet away. "I locked myself in the bathroom," she whispers to the dispatcher. "I am afraid he will hear me. That man, Arthur, he was always strange. He never looks you in the eye. And now I think he is killing someone." Suddenly, silence falls. It is abrupt and terrifying. Mrs. Gable freezes. The silence is worse than the screaming. "He stopped," she says, panic rising in her voice. "Why did he stop? Please hurry." Sarah stops asking questions. What she heard in the background leaves no room for doubt. This is not a family argument. It is a direct threat to a minor. She flips a switch on her panel. "All units in Sector 4. Her voice becomes steel. "Possible domestic violence. Code red. Active threat to a child. Address: 5th Avenue, Building 402, Apartment 4B. She watches 2 patrol cars on her screen make a U-turn and speed up. "Ma'am," she tells Mrs. Gable, "officers are close. Stay on the line and do not leave the bathroom." Sarah takes off her headset for a second and rubs her face. She hopes they are not too late. The elevator opens with a quiet ding on the 4th floor. Officer Miller steps out first, signaling for the social worker, Eliza, to stay behind him. As they walk down the long corridor, the atmosphere shifts. The smell of expensive perfume from the lobby is replaced by something stale and heavy. They stop in front of door 4B. The paint is peeling, and the welcome mat is covered in a thick layer of dust. The smell is distinct now. Old newspapers, mold, and neglect. Miller frowns. "Do you smell that?" he asks quietly. Eliza nods, pressing her lips together. "It is the scent of a home where people have stopped caring about life." "Stay against the wall," Miller whispers, his hand resting on his holster. Miller presses his ear to the door. At first, he hears only the hum of water pipes in the walls. But then, a sound breaks through the thick wood. It is not the scream the neighbor reported. It is something stranger. Thump, thump, thump. a rhythmic, dull sound, as if someone is methodically hitting their head against a wall. Between the thuds, there are quiet, whimpering noises. "Do you hear that?" Miller whispers. "It sounds like rocking." Eliza goes pale. In her line of work, rhythmic rocking is a sign of deep trauma in children. "We cannot wait," she says firmly. "If there is a child in there, they need help now." Miller raises his fist and bangs on the door 3 times. The sound echoes loudly through the floor. "NYPD, open the door," he shouts, shattering the sleepy silence of the building. Inside the apartment, the rhythmic thumping stops for a second. Dead silence follows. Miller and Eliza hold their breath, waiting for footsteps or a voice. But no one comes. Then a sharp shuffling sound comes from inside, like something heavy being dragged, and the rhythm starts again. Thump, 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 thump. The person inside is ignoring them completely. Miller looks at Eliza. "I am breaching the door," he says. He unbuttons the strap on his holster. Miller steps back, braces himself, and kicks the area near the lock with full force. The wood cracks but holds. He curses under his breath and kicks again. On the second strike, the frame splinters. The door flies open, crashing against the inside wall. Miller bursts in, weapon drawn. "Police, show me your hands," he yells, sweeping the room with his gun. Eliza follows, hugging her file folder like a shield. They are met not by the lights of a cozy apartment, but by near-total darkness. The windows are taped over with cardboard and black bags. The air inside is hot, thick, and suffocating. Miller's flashlight beam cuts through the dark, revealing mountains of trash and pizza boxes. But what the light finds in the center of the room makes them both freeze. Miller sweeps his flashlight across the chaotic room. It looks like a labyrinth built from boxes and old items. The light catches strange details: a broken bicycle, piles of unopened mail, and a grand piano buried under newspapers. "Where is the child?" Miller shouts, his voice sounding flat in the cluttered space. There is no answer, only a heavy breathing sound from the middle of the room. Eliza feels a chill run down her spine. There are no signs of a struggle, only signs of abandonment. In the center of the mess, there is a cleared space. Standing there is a large, dark object. It looks like a huge cage covered with layers of dirty, heavy blankets. The sound is coming from underneath it. Miller approaches the structure. The blankets are trembling slightly. From beneath them comes the rhythmic thumping they heard in the hall. Thump, thump, and a low, miserable mumbling. "Police," Miller commands, keeping his gun aimed. "If anyone is in there, make a sound." The blanket jerks violently. A sharp, metallic screeching noise follows. It does not sound like a human movement. Eliza steps forward. "Maybe the child is tied up," she whispers. "Maybe they can't speak." Her hands are shaking. Miller signals her to stay back. He reaches out with his left hand, grabbing the edge of the top blanket. He rips the fabric down. The blankets fall to the floor in a cloud of dust. Underneath, there is no child. There is a large, rusty birdcage. Inside, gripping the perch with sharp claws, sits a creature that is hard to recognize. It is a white cockatoo, but it looks like a ghost. Its chest is bare and pink. It has plucked out its own feathers from stress. The bird stares at the bright flashlight and opens a powerful black beak. Instead of a bird call, a piercing, distorted scream erupts from its throat. "Ah!" Miller flinches, almost pulling the trigger. The bird begins to throw itself against the bars, spreading wings that are missing half their feathers. It looks like a small, broken dragon. It rocks side to side. Thump. The beak hits the bar. It is a dance of madness. Turn off the light! A hoarse voice screams from the corner. Miller swings his flashlight. In the shadows, behind an old armchair, sits a man. It is Arthur. He looks as broken as his bird, ribs showing, unshaven, skin gray from lack of sun. He is sitting on the floor in his underwear, rocking in the same rhythm as the bird, his hands covering his ears. "Make him stop," Arthur whimpers. "Please, just make him stop." Miller lowers his gun, realizing there is no threat. "Sir, stand up," he says, but his voice has lost its aggression. Arthur stares at the wall. "He never stops," Arthur whispers, looking at the cage with horror. "He says it every night. Every single night." The bird in the cage falls silent, looking at its owner, and lets out a soft, questioning sound that sounds exactly like a crying child. Miller pulls Arthur up from the floor roughly. "You are under arrest for animal cruelty and disturbing the peace," he says dryly, snapping the handcuffs on. Arthur does not resist. He hangs in the officer's grip like a rag doll. Miller looks at the cage with disgust. The water is green with algae, and the bottom is covered in filth. "How can you let a living creature get like this?" the officer mutters. To him, Arthur is just another city lunatic. "I didn't mean to," Arthur says quietly. "I tried to feed him, but I can't look at him. I can't hear him." Miller pushes him onto the sofa. "Sit here. We are calling animal control." Eliza stays silent. She is not looking at Arthur. She is looking at the floor around the cage. Her professional eyes spot something Miller missed. Eliza crouches down, putting on latex gloves. She picks up a small plastic bottle from the floor among the trash. It is not drugs or alcohol. It is children's medicine. Cherry-flavored cough syrup. She checks the label. The expiration date is from 2021, 4 years ago. Next to it lies a bottle of strong painkillers prescribed to Lillian, age 7. Eliza moves a stack of old magazines with her foot and finds a drawing. It is a child's sketch in marker. A girl and a big white bird holding hands. "Officer," Eliza calls out, her voice trembling. "Look at this." She realizes the chaos in this apartment is not just garbage. It is the ruins of a life that stopped suddenly. The medicine wasn't thrown away because throwing it away would mean accepting the end. Suddenly, Echo puffs up his crest. He tilts his head, and his crazy look changes to something soft, almost human. He opens his beak. "I'm cold, Daddy," the bird says. It is not a bird squawk. It is a perfect, terrifying recording of a little girl's voice. The tone is weak, sleepy, and full of pain. Eliza gasps. The bird pauses, as if waiting for an answer. Silence. Then Echo continues, changing his tone to a whine. "I don't want the medicine. It tastes bad." The sound is so realistic that Eliza looks around, expecting to see a child. Now she understands why the neighbor called. Parrots live a long time and remember the sounds of their flock. Echo's flock was a dying girl. He memorized her final weeks and now replays them on a loop. Arthur on the sofa begins to sob. It is a loud, ugly, genuine sound. "She died at night," he breathes out through tears. "Lily died 4 years ago, but he won't let her go. He speaks with her voice every day." Miller slowly lowers his radio. He looks at the handcuffs on Arthur, then at the bird. His anger fades, replaced by a heavy sense of guilt. He does not see a criminal anymore. He sees a father trapped in hell. I cover him to make him stop, Arthur says. But I can't give him away. He is the only thing that remembers her voice. If I give him away, Lily disappears forever. Eliza puts a hand on Miller's shoulder. Don't arrest him, she says softly. The bird in the cage tilts its head again and whispers into the silence, Read me a story. Miller holds the key to the handcuffs, but looks at Eliza. Protocol says he must take Arthur to the station and send the bird to a shelter. But Eliza blocks his path. She speaks quietly but firmly, looking the officer in the eye. If we take him, the bird will die of heartbreak in a shelter, she says. And this man will likely end his life in a cell tonight. This isn't a crime, Miller. It's a tragedy. The officer frowns, looking from the dirty cage to the weeping man. Eliza turns to Arthur. She crouches in front of him, forcing him to look up. Arthur, listen to me. We can walk away, but we cannot leave things like this. Echo is suffering, and so are you. Arthur sniffs, looking at her like a lifeline. For the first time, there's a spark of awareness in his eyes. Eliza stands up and gestures around the room. I have the authority to give you a delay, she says in her official voice. I will write in the report that there is no immediate threat. But that is a lie right now. She holds up 2 fingers. 48 hours, Arthur. You have 2 days. The apartment must be cleaned, the trash gone, the windows open. The bird needs fresh water and food. Arthur looks at the mountains of junk that have accumulated over years. The task seems impossible. I don't know if I can, he whispers. You must, Eliza says sharply, because in 48 hours I will return. If Echo is screaming from pain or filth, I will take him, and then Lily's voice will be gone. It is your choice. Miller sighs and leans down to Arthur. With a metallic click, the handcuffs fall from his wrists. Arthur rubs the red marks on his skin, unable to believe his luck. The physical weight is gone, but the moral weight is heavier. My partner is kind, Miller grumbles, putting the cuffs away. But I am not. If the neighbors call again about screaming, I will break that door down again, and next time we won't be talking. Do you understand me, son? Arthur nods. He stands up, swaying. He looks pathetic in his undershirt, but there is a shadow of determination in his posture. Thank you, he rasps. Miller nods briefly and heads for the exit, stepping over boxes. The door closes behind the police, leaving Arthur in silence. He hears only the dripping tap and Echo shuffling in the cage. Arthur looks at his hands. They are shaking. He walks to the window and tears off a piece of cardboard. The street lamp illuminates the room, making it look even uglier. Dust, dirt, desolation. It is a monument to his grief. Now he has to destroy it in 2 days. Echo makes a soft sound. Kurr. Arthur walks to the cage. He does not cover it with the blanket. For the first time in a long time, he looks at the bird openly. I'm sorry, buddy, Arthur whispers. He picks up the first trash bag. The clock has started ticking. The next morning, the door to apartment 4B is slightly ajar because the lock is still broken. Leo, an 8-year-old boy from the floor above, walks down the hallway kicking an imaginary ball. He is small and thin, wearing a bright t-shirt. Hearing aids sit behind his ears, but the light on one is off. For Leo, the world is a silent movie. He sees movement and color, but sound is either a dull hum or nothing at all. He notices the open door. All the kids in the building are forbidden to go near 4B. They say a monster lives there. But Leo is curious and unafraid because he never heard the screams that scared the others. He pushes the door. He steps inside. To him, it looks like a treasure cave, piles of strange things and dust motes dancing in the light. Arthur turns around and sees the boy. His nerves are frayed after a sleepless night of cleaning. He jumps, dropping a stack of magazines. "Hey, get out of here!" Arthur yells, waving his arms. "You can't be here! Go!" Arthur is used to children running away at the first sound of his voice. He looks scary, unshaven, dirty. But the boy doesn't move. Leo stands and watches him with big, calm eyes, tilting his head slightly. Arthur yells louder, stepping forward. "Are you deaf? Get out!" Leo blinks. He sees the strange man's mouth moving and his face turning red, but he feels no threat. He only sees a funny face. This confuses Arthur. His aggression crashes against the wall of the child's calmness. He stops yelling, lowering his hands. Why isn't this kid afraid? While Arthur stands in confusion, Leo notices the cage. His eyes light up. He has never seen such a big white bird. He walks past Arthur, ignoring him, straight to Echo. Echo, frightened by the intruder, puffs up his feathers and lets out his signature piercing scream. It is a sound that shatters glass. Arthur instinctively covers his ears, but Leo doesn't even blink. The boy walks right up to the bars. Echo screams again but sees no reaction. The small human doesn't recoil or scream back. This puzzles the bird. Echo falls silent, tilting his head. Leo smiles and slowly raises his hand. He places his palm on the metal bars of the cage. Echo lets out a low, throaty growl. Leo feels the vibration of the metal under his fingers. To him, this is the bird's voice, the trembling of matter. Arthur watches the scene, holding his breath. He sees Echo reaching with his beak toward the boy's fingers. Arthur wants to shout, "Careful, he bites," but the words stick in his throat. Echo doesn't bite. The bird gently touches the boy's finger with his beak, tasting it. Leo laughs silently with his eyes. Then the boy starts tapping his finger rhythmically on the bar. Tap, tap. Echo immediately picks up the rhythm and clicks his beak in response. Leo turns to Arthur, points to his ears, and then spreads his hands. The gesture is clear. Silence. Arthur looks at the hearing aids. In that moment, he understands. The boy doesn't hear the screams. He doesn't hear dead Lily's voice. He only sees a beautiful bird and a sad man. For the first time in 4 years, someone entered this room and didn't bring fear with them. Leo loses interest in the cage and looks around. His attention is caught by a strange object buried under a pile of old newspapers and clothes in the corner. To the boy, it looks like the leg of a sleeping dinosaur. He walks closer and pulls at the edge of a dusty sheet. The fabric slides off, raising a cloud of dust to reveal the lid of a Steinway grand piano. It is old and scratched, but the keys still hold a faded grandeur. Arthur steps forward, wanting to yell, "Don't touch," but stops. This instrument has been silent for 4 years. To Arthur, it is a tombstone, but Leo doesn't know about the grief. He sees a big toy with black and white teeth. The boy runs a finger over the keys without pressing them, feeling the cold ivory. He turns to Arthur and smiles. Leo presses one key in the lower register. It is a bass note. There is no sound for him. Silence still rules his world. But he feels something else. The hammer hits the thick string, and the vibration travels through the wood straight into the boy's fingertips. Leo's eyes go wide. He presses the key again, harder. Boom. The body of the piano shudders. The boy presses his palm against the wooden side of the instrument and hits the key again. Now he feels the tremor through his whole body. For Leo, this is a discovery. He cannot hear music, but he can touch it. He starts pressing different keys chaotically, testing how each one answers in his palms. High notes are tiny shivers, low notes are powerful pushes. Arthur watches with a pounding heart. Arthur can't stand it. The chaotic banging hurts his professional ears. He walks over, swipes a stack of bills off the bench, and sits next to the boy. Arthur smells like sweat and old age, but Leo doesn't move away. Arthur gently takes Leo's small hand and lifts it from the keys. The boy looks at him with a question. Arthur raises his index finger. His hand is shaking, his knuckles white. He hasn't played in an eternity. He presses one single note, middle C. The sound is pure, long, and resonant. The piano is only slightly out of tune. Arthur holds the key down, letting the sound fade slowly. Leo places his hand on the piano lid, right over the strings. He closes his eyes, catching the fading wave of vibration. Arthur looks at the boy's face. For the first time, he sees someone listening to music, not with ears, but with their heart. Suddenly, a new sound joins the piano note. From the cage, a quiet, melodic whistle floats through the air. Arthur flinches and turns around. Echo is sitting on his perch, neck stretched out. The bird is not screaming. Echo is listening. Cockatoos are musical creatures. Hearing a pure note, Echo instinctively tries to match the pitch. He lets out a short trill that harmonizes perfectly with the note Arthur is holding. It is not the voice of a dying girl. It is the bird's own voice. Arthur presses a second note, a third higher. Echo immediately adjusts, making a happy clicking sound. Arthur feels tears running down his cheeks. The trio is complete. A deaf boy feeling the rhythm, a bird remembering how to sing, and a musician remembering why keys exist. An hour passes, maybe two. Leo hasn't gone home. He sits on the floor under the piano, his back pressed against the soundboard, the most resonant spot. It is night now, but the room glows with warm lamplight. Arthur is playing. At first he was unsure, stumbling, but his fingers remembered the craft. He plays Chopin, the nocturnes his wife used to love. The melodies fill the apartment, pushing out the stale air. Dust motes dance in the light, looking like gold dust instead of dirt. Leo sits with his eyes closed. For him, this concert is a massage of sound waves. He feels the powerful crescendos with his back and the gentle ripples with the back of his head. He smiles in his sleep, completely trusting this strange place. The music changes echo, too. Mimic birds reproduce sounds associated with strong emotions. Before, the strongest emotion was Lily's fear, but the music has unlocked deeper layers of memory. Echo starts to mutter, but these are not words of pain. The bird makes the sound of a whistling kettle, a cozy, domestic sound. Then, the squeak of an old rocking chair. Then, a loud, ringing child's laugh. It is the laugh of a healthy Lily, the laugh that filled this house 5 years ago. Arthur hears it through the music. His fingers stumble, and he opens his eyes. Instead of a ghost of death, the bird has given him back a ghost of life. "Good birdie," Echo says in his own scratchy voice, and then replays the laughter again. It doesn't sound scary. It sounds warm. Arthur closes the piano lid. Silence hangs in the room, but it no longer crushes him. It vibrates, saturated with the last chord. Arthur looks at his hands. They are dirty, scraped from cleaning, but they are the hands of a living man. He rests his head on the piano lid and begins to weep. This time, it is not the ugly, hopeless wailing the police heard. These are quiet tears of relief. The stone that has been sitting on his chest for 4 years has finally moved. He cries because he hears his daughter's laughter from the cage and feels no terror. He feels gratitude. He realizes Echo kept not just Lily's death, but her joy. Arthur had just chosen to hear only the bad parts. Leo crawls out from under the piano. He sees the man crying and does what any child would do. He puts a hand on the adult's shoulder and pats him clumsily. Outside the window, the gray light of dawn appears. Leo rubs his eyes. He is tired. He gestures that he has to go or his mom will worry. Arthur nods. He walks the boy to the door. "Come back again," Arthur says, forgetting the boy can't hear. But Leo understands. He waves and runs up the stairs to his apartment. Arthur is left alone. He looks around the apartment. It is still full of trash, though some is bagged. There is a lot of work ahead, but the atmosphere has changed irreversibly. Arthur goes to the kitchen and pours clean water into a bowl. He walks to the cage, opens the door, and changes the water for the sleeping parrot. "Good morning, Echo," he whispers. The bird opens one eye and clicks his beak softly. The fear is gone. Exactly 48 hours later, the elevator opens on the 4th floor. Eliza and Miller step into the hallway. Eliza nervously clutches the folder with the seizure warrant. She hopes for the best, but is ready for the worst. Miller walks heavily, prepared to kick down the door again. But something has changed. Last time, the corridor smelled of rot. Today, the air smells different. It smells of strong lemon cleaner and fresh coffee. They stop at the door. The lock is still broken, but the door is neatly pulled shut. There are no screams, no thumping, no mad scratching. Instead, there is music. A quiet, flowing piano melody. Miller raises his eyebrows in surprise. He takes his hand off his holster. Eliza takes a deep breath and, instead of pounding with her fist, knocks politely. "Mr. Arthur?" It is social services. The door opens. Arthur stands there. He is still very thin, and his clothes are old, but he is clean-shaven, and his hair is combed back. His eyes are red from fatigue, but the madness is gone. "Come in," he says calmly. The officer and social worker step inside and freeze. It is not a perfect magazine apartment. The wallpaper is torn in places, the furniture is old. But the mountains of trash are gone. Dozens of black bags are stacked neatly in the corner by the door. The windows, taped shut for years, are washed and thrown wide open. Daylight floods the room, ruthlessly lighting up the worn floor, but making the space feel alive. The wind moves the simple curtains. "I didn't finish everything," Arthur says apologetically, rubbing his hands. "There was too much dirt, but I tried." Eliza walks to the center of the room. She sees the most important thing. The apartment no longer looks like a crypt. It looks like a home undergoing renovation. Eliza's eyes fall on the piano. There, on the bench, sits Leo. The boy swings his legs and turns the sheet music pages, even though Arthur isn't playing right now. Leo smiles at the visitors and waves. And on top of the piano, on a special stand, sits Echo. The cage is scrubbed clean and stands open nearby, but the bird prefers to be out. Echo is preening his feathers. He still looks plucked and pathetic, but his posture is relaxed. "Did he scream?" Miller asks sternly, though the answer is obvious. "No," Arthur answers. "We found a common language. We play." Leo listens with his hands. Echo sings along. And I just remember. Echo lifts his head, sees the strangers, and lets out a short, calm whistle. Then he shifts his feet and speaks in his own scratchy bird voice. "Hello." Not the dead girl's voice, his own. Eliza slowly closes the folder. She does not take out the warrant. She looks at Arthur, at the boy, at the bird. This strange group, a broken man, a deaf child, and a bald parrot, has created its own ecosystem of support. Destroying it now would be a crime. You have made clear progress, Arthur, she says officially, but with a warm smile. I will keep the case open for a month for monitoring. But Echo stays with you, on the condition that you continue the cleaning and therapy. Miller extends his hand to Arthur. This time, not for handcuffs. Good job, son, the old policeman says. Arthur shakes the hand and his fingers are steady. When the door closes behind them, Arthur leans his back against it and closes his eyes. He survived. He made it. He feels Leo press a piano key again, demanding more music. A year has passed. Apartment 4B is no longer a place people avoid. Now, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the door is always open. In the living room, there are several music stands. Arthur sits at the piano. He has gained weight, and there is gray in his hair, but he looks dignified in a white shirt. Around him are 3 neighborhood children. They are learning music. Arthur patiently shows a girl how to hold her wrist correctly. The atmosphere is full of life. Laughter, wrong notes, the smell of cookies. Mrs. Temeth, Gable, the neighbor who called the police, sits in an armchair in the corner, knitting while she waits for her granddaughter to finish her lesson. Fear has been replaced by respect. Leo is now Arthur's official assistant. He has grown and become more confident. Right now, he is helping a small boy understand rhythm. Leo cannot hear the metronome, so he puts a hand on the student's shoulder and taps the beat with his fingers. 1, 2, 3. Leo and Arthur have developed their own sign language. Arthur nods, and Leo turns the page. Arthur winks, and Leo brings the sheet music. They understand each other better than people who can speak. Leo found his place in the world of sound while remaining in silence. He teaches other kids to feel music with their bodies, not just hear it with their ears. It makes Arthur's lessons unique in the whole district. The lesson ends, and the children leave. Arthur walks over to Echo. The bird looks much better. White feathers cover most of his body now. But on his chest, a patch of bare pink skin remains forever, a scar that will never heal. Echo hops onto Arthur's shoulder and gently nips his ear. Suddenly, the bird tilts his head and speaks in that same child's voice. "I love you, Daddy." Before, this sound made Arthur scream and hide. Now, he only freezes for a second. The pain hasn't gone away, but it stopped being sharp. It became a quiet sadness, a part of his story. "I know, sweetie," Arthur answers, stroking the bird's crest. "I love you too." "We hear you." He doesn't run from the ghost anymore. He lives with the memory of her. Leo packs his things but stops at the door. He looks at Arthur questioningly and makes the sign for play. Arthur smiles and sits at the instrument again. He starts playing a simple, bright melody. Leo stands by the door, leaning against the frame, feeling the vibration through the floor. Echo sits on his owner's shoulder and whistles in time. The camera slowly pulls back, flying out the open window. We see evening Manhattan, the lights of the big city. The sounds of the city mix with the music from apartment 4B. The story began with a scream in the dark, and it ends with harmony. The darkness didn't disappear, but they learned how to turn on the light within it.